What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024, episode 559. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having an awesome week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself, and drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So let's get right into it now. Jordan B. from YouTube with the first question. They asked, what are your current pet peeves in wrestling right now? It can be anything from the fans to how any of the companies book their shows. Not a lot of major pet peeves. I mean, you mentioned the fans. That's the first thing that comes to mind is the tribalism. It's not really right now. This has been an issue. I mean, really forever. But largely in the last 5 years with WWE versus AEW, it's bad on both sides. I feel like I've seen it worse on the side of AEW, but it's still pretty equally bad either way with the diehard fan base for both companies. And I love WWE, I love AEW. Kind of delusionally thinking, they just, pitting the two companies against each other when you don't necessarily have to. And even when you do, sometimes when you have to kind of compare the two companies, these fans taking it an extra step further by, just going a lot deeper and a lot further with it than they need to. By resorting to death threats and just name calling and just being fucking, brain dead imbeciles and, like the lack of logic on one side compared to the other. You know what I'm talking about. If you have spent a single day on social media, on wrestling media in the last 5 years talking about WWE or AEW, you probably know what I'm talking about. So not really a current pet peeve. It's been a pet peeve of mine for a while. And it's not even really a pet peeve. It's just something that exists. And it's something that will likely always be there for as long as we have two major companies going at it. And the fan base wasn't always great even before AEW anyway, but I feel like it's gotten worse with the evolution of social media, Twitter just being a fucking dumpster fire in a lot of ways in 2024 due to Elon Musk, among other factors. But beyond that, though, like other pet peeves, AEW having a million multi-man matches and none of them really meaning anything, not a big fan of that. WWE has moved away from doing this, I think, recently, which is nice. But they were doing a lot of multi-team matches a number of months ago, like number one contenders matches, and we still kind of get that now with number one contenders matches, and title matches and stuff like that. Like, not everything has to be a multi-team or a multi-man, multi-woman match. Sometimes you can tell singular stories. Not having the WWE tag titles defended, the women's titles being the only exception. Those have been defended on 2 pay-per-views since WrestleMania. They were defended at Backlash and at King and Queen of the Ring. And at Clash of the Castle, actually. They were on King and Queen of the Ring on the pre-show. They've actually been defended on 3 consecutive pay-per-views. The WWE Tag Team titles and the World Tag Team titles have not been defended on any pay-per-view. There are 2 sets of men's tag team titles in this company. They have not been defended on a single pay-per-view since WrestleMania 4 months ago. That is fucking crazy. So that's another issue. There's a number of other pet peeves of mine, I would say, if I really thought about it, but I guess those are the top ones. Chris W. from YouTube, their first question was, he says, what's up, Graham? Hope your week is going awesome so far. I read that Statlander and Willow will be competing at All In the pre-show in a mixed tag team match, with Willow having Tomohiro Ishii in her corner and Stokely in Stat's corner. I feel this is needless, as I think that if they want to prove that they have a better women's division than WWE, they should have added the Stat Willow match to the card or to make it a 3-women match card. Should they have done this with all the build and storyline, or should they save it for All Out? Now, that was exactly it. Now, when I heard about that, I have actually yet to watch Collision. I'm so behind on stuff, so if you see reviews and videos backed up still, I'm still backed up from being at SummerSlam last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, so just a heads up on that front. I have yet to watch or review Rampage or Collision. So my point is, I didn't see that they announced that match until like the following day on Twitter, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? Like, Willow and Statlander was right there. They've been building this up for months, almost a year actually. They started out as teammates almost a year ago, and they had Statlander do the heel turn to Double or Nothing. They had a couple matches. They've worked well with each other. Willow won the first one. Statlander won the second one recently. Why wouldn't you do the rubber match at All In? And they're doing them on the pre-show instead. in a fucking random ass mixed tag team match. But the last line of your question is exactly why I think that they're doing what they're doing. Because they still need matches for All Out, and they don't want just rematches at All Out. So it's possible they're doing the match at All Out so they can give them a bigger spotlight. Maybe Mercedes and Britt, I mean, I guarantee they probably will be, but there's a small chance maybe they won't be at All Out. And Statlander and Willow is like the big match instead. Maybe they don't do Tony and Mariah May Part 2 at All Out. Maybe they hold off on that until WrestleDream or whatever. So maybe the only, or the biggest featured women's match on that show at All Out is Willow and Stat. I don't know, but I that's the only reason I can think as to why they would have done that. And I would rather they do that and put that random-ass match in the pre-show than put fucking 12 matches on the main card. Oh, just because it's London, just because, it's London, it's a massive show, we got to have 12 matches. They have fucking 12 matches for every goddamn pay-per-view, and it doesn't feel special. So I'd rather they do that than give them 5 minutes, and then I'd rather they give them more time at All Out is what I'm saying, and then give them 5 minutes at All In on the second match on the card where they really won't get the spotlight they deserve. They deserve to have a singles match at All Out, or rather All In on that big stage in front of all those people. But if that's how it's going to be, give them the time at All Out and give them the spotlight there instead, in my opinion. He says, what are some of your fondest memories of going back and watching footage of the recently deceased Kevin Sullivan? Have you watched any of his work, and what do you think his legacy is in wrestling? I know more of Sullivan as a booker. I mean, I was not watching wrestling when he was around, and I can't say I've gone back really ever to watch a lot of his matches. Now, I've gone back and watched some old WCW pay-per-views from like the late 80s and whatnot, mid-early 80s, and he was probably on some of those. But beyond that, I can't remember and can't recall many matches or promos that I've seen of his, like I've gone out of my way to watch. My biggest exposure to Kevin Sullivan was through like the Dark Side of the Ring stuff, where he would be brought on as a talking head, and he would have a lot of insight on a lot of the stuff they would bring him in for to talk about. Being a booker and a lot of that sort of stuff. He would have a lot of insight on that sort of stuff. So I thought WWE did a great job with the video package last week. I thought that was really well done. I thought that was classy and cool. And he seemed like a really nice guy. So don't have a lot of fond memories of his work just because I haven't really gone back to watch much of his work. As far as his legacy, I'm kind of the wrong person to ask about that because, again, I'm not overly familiar with his work. But I think the WWE video package summed it up really well as far as what he accomplished in wrestling, both in front of the camera and behind the camera as well. Their third question, did you see the bull rope match between Deonna Purrazzo and Thunder Rosa? I heard it was wicked and both women beat the living hell out of each other. If you did, what are your thoughts? Like I said a couple minutes ago, I have yet to watch Collision, so no, I have not watched it yet. I've watched the other matches they had at Double or Nothing, on Collision, the Lumberjack match. I think they've had 4 matches. That might have been the 5th one. I don't remember. They've had a lot of matches. I'm kind of beyond tired of the feud at this point, but they have worked well together and have had a lot of good matches and very good chemistry together, so I can't complain too much. But my thoughts on the match will be in the written review when I watch the show and review the show at some point in the next couple days, hopefully. Micah does it from YouTube. Their one question this week was, with Bronson Reed being booked as a strong heel on WWE Raw, I was thinking of Braun Strowman coming out and starting a feud with Reed, leading to a match where WWE could do the break the ring spot we haven't seen in a while. And I feel it could get Bronson over even more if they did it and had him still pin Strowman for the win. How do you feel about this idea? I love the idea. Now, the break the ring thing, you're right. We have not seen it in a while. They've done it, 3 times total? I thought there might have been a 4th, but I think it's only been 3 times in WWE. Maybe other promotions, but I'm only thinking of WWE here. Big Show and Brock in 2003. They did it again 8 years later in 2011 with Big Show and Mark Henry. And then they did it another 6 years after that with Big Show and Braun Strowman. So Big Show was involved in all 3 of them. Big Show would not be involved in this one. It's been 7 years since the last one, so I guess you could say we're due in a way. It was 8 years and then 7 years. It's been, it was 6 years. It was 8, 6, and now 7 years. So I guess you could do it and it would still feel somewhat fresh for those that did not see the last one or the last 3. It's been done enough where if it's never done again, I wouldn't complain. But for those 2, it would make sense. It could get Bronson, that's Braun and Bronson Reed, I get confused. It could get Bronson Reed even more over in his current role. I like that idea a lot. And I even said this on WrestleRant Radio. We pre-recorded it this week. We can't record tomorrow, but I mentioned to Mr. Marceau when we were talking. I love the idea, and I've said this for about a year now. I like the idea of a Bronson Reed-Braun Strowman feud, because Braun Strowman's over, he's a monster, and it would be impressive for Bronson Reed to beat him decisively, dominate him, whatever. And Bronson Reed needs someone to kind of work with in the meantime. We don't know how long Rollins is going to be out for, so if they can have Braun Strowman work with him in the meantime, and Bronson Reed can go over on him, I think that would work really, really well. And Braun Strowman's also one of those guys that, he's not doing much right now either, and he's over, so I think Bronson Reed can really benefit from working with him. So I like that idea a lot. The break the ring thing, they don't really have to do, but if they do it, I wouldn't be upset with it, I guess. Noel from Facebook, they asked, where do you see this Judgment Day war going until WarGames at Survivor Series? I got a couple questions about that this week as far as what they do at WarGames at Survivor Series. I think it would make more sense to do the Bloodline in WarGames at Survivor Series. I don't think it needs to be the Judgment Day. I think if the Judgment Day were involved a lot like last year, Rhea Ripley would not be involved in the match itself, at least being in the ring. I know you have Liv Morgan on the opposite side, but with the way WarGames works, they can't just fight each other. That doesn't make sense. People were saying that last year. And then if you take Rhea Ripley out of the equation, who does Damian Priest have on his side? That's fucking 4 partners that he would need to come up with between now and Survivor Series, and I feel like that would feel forced. So the Bloodline would make more sense. I don't even know if they reunite the entire Bloodline by then, but it gives them more time to do that because it's 3 months away, and you have logical partners for Roman Reigns. With Damian Priest, you don't really have logical partners, and I don't really need to see JD McDonough in WarGames again or even Carlito. I would just do Bloodline. That being said, with the Judgment Day, I think they've progressed the feud. It's only been a couple weeks, but I think they've progressed it nicely, where Finn Balor said, you will not get your hands on me anytime soon. So it sounds like, and I've seen people say this, they could hold off until WrestleMania on blowing off the Damian Priest-Finn Balor match. You could do the first match before then. I feel like you kind of have to. WrestleMania is not for another 8 months. But, I think you could stretch it out until then, a lot like they did with Edge and Judgment Day. Now, that was long-term storytelling. But I feel like you could do something similar with Balor and Priest. Have Priest beat him, or rather Balor beat him in their first match at a Bad Blood or Survivor Series or whatever. Priest goes away for a while or focuses on other stuff, and then they get back to the feud in time for WrestleMania. I don't need to see that. They could finish the feud before the end of the year or around the Royal Rumble if they have other plans for Priest and or Balor at WrestleMania, probably Priest. But that's also a possibility. So I don't know what they would do, but you could always do, I know Bad Blood is definitely going to be Rhea and Liv again, one-on-one. I would have to imagine for the Women's World Championship. On that same show, I don't know if you do Damian and Finn for the first time one-on-one since the split, or if you do Damian versus Dominic instead. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen Damian beat JD McDonough. We've seen Damian Priest beat Carlito in recent weeks. He has yet to get his hands on Dominic, so that might be the next step. But I like that they're doing the mixed tag team match at Bash in Berlin, though. I feel like that's a great way to progress the feud. Their second question, do you see Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns teaming up to destroy the Bloodline one by one until The Rock gets involved, leading to a match against Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble for the right to become the true tribal chief of the Bloodline? No. I don't see... Roman and Rock at the Rumble would be fucking wild in a way where that makes zero sense. If you're 2 months out from WrestleMania, why would you not do that match at Mania? To do Rock and Roman first before you do Rock and Cody would be ass-backwards booking. They definitely got to do Cody and Rock. They set it up on the post-WrestleMania Raw. Makes the most sense to do. I would have done it at SummerSlam, but clearly that didn't happen. I guess they could do Cody and Roman, or Cody and Rock at the Royal Rumble. They could, but that's I don't know. I think Cody and Rock at this point is probably happening at Mania. So I don't even know if we get Rock and Roman at Mania, let alone the Royal Rumble. So no, I don't like that idea. At some point, Rock and Roman will have a match. But at the Royal Rumble, that's way too soon. They got to wait for Mania at this point, or Mania 42, which I'm thinking is probably going to be the case. They might wait another 2 years for that if they're doing Cody and Rock at WrestleMania this coming year, and they really want to stretch this shit out. Cody and Roman teaming up to take on the Bloodline, it could work. I mean, you really got to have Cody, Roman's got to really warm up to Cody, and, they really got to break down that barrier given their past issues, even as recently as a couple months ago. I was going to say later on, but come WarGames, I don't know if Roman has the full Bloodline back by then. I don't know if they're going to have him with Jay, Jimmy, and even Sami Zayn. by Survivor Series. That might be too soon. So if they don't, and they got to hold off on that for a little while longer, maybe Roman teams with the biggest adversaries of the bloodline. And I hope Orton turns heel by then, but maybe it's Orton teaming with Roman and Cody and Owens, and it's those four against the current bloodline four. Now, where does Hikuleo come in? Does he come in anytime soon? I have no idea. But I feel like the 4-on-4 would be better than it. Doesn't have to be 5-on-5. Like we've seen 3-on-3-on-3. We've seen 4-on-4, 5-on-5. I like 4-on-4 in this scenario because to add in other members for no reason, I feel like would just be stupid. But you could do that if you really wanted to. So yeah, I think with Cody and Roman teaming up, maybe I would be okay with that depending on how they tell that story. But doing Rock and Roman to the Rumble, absolutely not. Christopher L. from Facebook, their first question was, he says, Brian Alvarez and Pro Wrestling Observer are saying that the Swerve Bryan Danielson feud and build for All In has been confusing. On top of that, people are bashing the fact that Swerve competed against Tomohiro Ishii, and while I can understand some people's sentiments about the booking of the match, as well as the match last week with Bryan and Jeff Jarrett, I think it's just people complaining for the sake of complaining. Do you think the feud for the match at All In has become over-criticized? I honestly haven't seen that criticism. I saw that Meltzer was complaining that the Owens build for the Cody Rhodes match made no sense, even though I thought they explained it exceptionally well on SmackDown, so I'm not sure what fucking show he's watching. I haven't seen him criticize Danielson and Swerve, but even if he did, I don't know why it would be confusing. Danielson's putting the rest of his career on the line for the championship. I mean, it's a pretty simple story. And Swerve is fighting back against that as the fighting champion, and he's looking to defend his... I don't know, I just feel like it's a pretty simple story. So, I don't see or understand the criticisms there with Danielson and Strickland. Danielson and Jarrett, I get that Jarrett was trying to toughen up Danielson, and they had a good match. I don't give a fuck about Jeff Jarrett being in a main event in 2024. I mean, the roster that AEW has, there really is no reason for Jeff Jarrett to be as prominently featured as he is on these shows. I know we got some buzz out of the Owen Hart Cup, and that was nice, but that was over a month ago. It's time to move on to other people that you're not giving TV time to. Where the fuck is Ricky Starks and Wardlow? Like, my God. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the match. The Tomohiro Ishii thing, I didn't see the actual match yet. Like I said, I haven't seen Collision. I think people were complaining about the selling or the lack of selling. I mean, I can understand that. It looked fucking ridiculous. I saw the clip. That is your world champion hitting offense on Ishii, and then Ishii's not selling for it. I know that's like the Japanese way in certain matches and whatever. I just wouldn't have done that. I thought that was really stupid. The match itself, I'm sure, was good. I just haven't seen it. But like the Strickland and Danielson thing, yeah, I don't understand that. I understand the feud. I don't understand the bitching about the storyline there because I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. Your second question, I absolutely adored that heel turn by Wes Lee last week to end NXT. The build-up intention to it was first-rate, making us believe that Trey and Wentz were going to stab him in the back due to the lingering of the camera on Trey, but when Wes hit that super kick, my jaw dropped. I wasn't a fan, though, of the double knees into the steel steps on Wentz, as Wes has had multiple knee issues in the past, and one mistake or movement would have been nasty. Overall, I loved every second of that closing angle. What about you? Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I am just getting through NXT now from last night, and I thought his first heel promo was really good. Now listen, Wesley's a natural babyface, so I think for him to go out there and try the heel thing is admirable. He's done everything else in NXT. He's challenged for the NXT Championship a few times. He's been North American Champion. He's been Tag Team Champion. They got to try something different. So for the remainder of his run there, turning him heel against his former teammates is cool. Looking forward to seeing where it goes. And the actual angle I thought was well done, because you're right. I also felt the same way. I thought the Rascals would turn on him. Because like I said, he's a natural babyface. He's gone on to bigger and better things in NXT, kind of leaving them behind in TNA. And they were just recently heels in TNA. So it would make sense if they were the ones to turn on him, but it was actually the other way around, where it was a 1-on-2 situation, and he got the better of them. So I like that, and we'll see where it goes. So yeah, I really like the angle. Your next question. It hit me sometime last week that two of the biggest storylines in WWE right now involve some item that is a connection to detention. For Drew versus Punk, it's an ugly bracelet that has Punk's wife and dog on it. For Solo and Roman, it's the red sheath garment that they wear around their necks. Even during the Elite and Death Triangle storyline, it was the ball-peen hammer. I mean, that's different. That shit was fucking stupid. He says, I get it's part of the story, but I find it is stupid that these two storylines are what people find to be great storytelling, when I think it is downright nonsensical that Punk would get so worked up over a terrible bracelet just because it has AJ and Larry on it. Do you think the storyline involving items can get a little goofy, and do you think it makes Punk and Roman look dumb by getting so emotional over said items? No, and I 100,000% disagree. You put great storytelling in quotation marks, and if you disagree, that's fine with that. But I think it is actual great storytelling. It's not the fucking bracelet itself. I mean, this isn't rocket science. It's what it represents. He doesn't like that Drew is disrespecting his wife and his dog. Now, Punk going after Rollins and having that distract him from Drew at SummerSlam, that I agree could make Punk look dumb. But that's the whole point. He doesn't like Rollins. He doesn't like McIntyre. He doesn't like anyone. So that's just the attitude that they built up with Punk, that he's a hothead, whatever. That's who he is in real life. But the bracelet shit didn't bother me because, again, Drew is going after his family. For the same reason, Joe took it a step further years ago when Samoa Joe showed up at AJ Styles' house. It was the same thing. Him just saying Wendy, why would that bother AJ? It's just him saying a name, okay. But it's because it's his wife's name. I mean, if you're married or have kids or have any sort of family, I would think anyone going after your family, like it was a childhood bully or something in school making fun of your little brother or your parents, you would be fucking pissed too. So I totally get why they would revolve a storyline around it, and on SmackDown you could say, the same thing, it's just an item. Again, it's what it represents. The lay, or whatever the actual name for it is that Roman Reigns picked up at the end of SmackDown last week, it's what his family is represented by. Specifically his father. I mean, you can go and say, oh yeah, it's the NYE lay, or whatever the exact word for it is. Okay, that's silly. But, not even just that, though. In storyline, on the show itself, 4 years ago, his father gave that to him at Hell in the Cell. His father just recently died. So for Solo, I mean, not that exact one, I don't think. But for him to, and I think that was the first time he was given one of those on TV. I could be wrong, but I think that was the first time he was given one of those on TV as the tribal chief. That was like when he was officially anointed the tribal chief in the bloodline of the NY family, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, his father gave that to him. His father just recently died. It is disrespectful for Solo to take that and wear it himself without Roman Reigns' permission. The AEW thing isn't even comparable. The hammer had no fucking storyline significance. They just used the same weapon over and over and over again. Don Callis keeps using the same fucking weapon constantly, even to this day with Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay. It's stupid. It's just dumb. I mean, a hammer specifically would fucking kill someone, so that's why I hate when they use that shit. It's like Abyss's Janice back in the day, that dumb thing with the nails on. And I just met Abyss actually in real life for the first time a couple weeks ago at SummerSlam. On our way to the arena, and he was really nice. But the character using Janice with nails in it, like this thing of wood, this like 2x4 or whatever with nails in it, was fucking stupid. So again, the bracelet and the Roman Reigns thing, it's about what it represents. If you can't get into it, that's fine. But if you can't simply understand that it's storytelling because of what it represents and not the actual bracelet, then you're just not paying attention, in my opinion. Your next question, which of these 4 deaths do you rank as the worst? Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Owen Hart, and Bray Wyatt. I mean, we're ranking people's deaths. I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't know. What was the worst? I mean, what does worst even mean? I mean, like the Benoit one was fucking, I mean, I wasn't around for any of the 3 except for Bray Wyatt. The first 3 I was not around for. The Benoit one was the most horrific because he killed himself and his family. The other ones were just tragic incidents, tragic health issues, whatever. I guess if you're going off of like horrific, Benoit would have to be 1. Owen Hart would have to be 2 because it happened during the show. I feel like Eddie and Bray are comparable because they didn't happen like on the show. I mean, Benoit didn't happen on the show, but the circumstances around it are eerie and just wild. Bray Wyatt to me was more heartbreaking because I that happened during my, like, I feel like the Bray one is comparable to the Eddie one. I wasn't watching when Eddie passed away, so I can't comment on that one specifically. I feel like Bray was younger, though, than Eddie. When Eddie passed, he was older than Bray, I believe. I think Bray was like early 30s, was he not? Mid 30s? Eddie was like late 30s. It's only a couple years off, I get that, but maybe Bray, I mean, we had thought Bray was doing better, too. With Eddie, I mean, the guy just died randomly from a heart attack. I don't know if there were any talks of him, being sick before that. He just randomly died. So I don't know. I hate even doing this because this feels weird to even talk about this. I guess I would put Wyatt last because it was incredibly sad, but like the other ones were just more shocking. At least Bray had been sick for a little while and we didn't know how bad it was, but at least he had been sick. Benoit, that was just crazy. The 0-1 happened on the show. That's also just sad and could have been prevented. So I guess I would go 2. 3 would be Eddie just because he was still like an active guy on the show even like a week before, and no one even really knew he had any major health issues going on, and Bray would be last, even though it was the saddest for me because I was alive to see it, and we knew Bray, and I had met Bray, and it was just, the whole thing was really, really sad. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine, and on YouTube, Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his content. He does great work. His question was, looking ahead to WrestleMania, I know a very long time away, he says, what are the chances we see maybe Braun versus Gunther for the world title? Or do you think they'll hold off on that until SummerSlam 2025? Yeah, no, I don't think we see that at WrestleMania. I just feel like for Mania, there's so many top stars in that scenario that would be unaccounted for, that I feel like one of them's got to face Gunther. Maybe not Drew, because we've seen that already a few times, but I feel like it's got to be Gunther, Punk. I don't think we get Gunther Dragunov as soon as Mania. I feel like we'll probably get that on Raw before then, but I don't think they do that. I don't think they're ready. I don't think Dragunov is ready for that spot that early. So I don't think we get it that soon. But that would be cool. I wouldn't complain. I just don't think we get it. I think Gunther will face either Punk or Rollins. Because if you have Braun face Gunther, then Punk will probably face Rollins. But then what do you do with Drew? What do you do with this guy, that guy? I don't know. So it's possible. Braun also does not need to be challenging for the World Championship that soon. He just won the Intercontinental Championship. He could lose it around the Rumble and then go for the belt at Mania. But I still feel like that would be too soon. He just got called up a year ago. He's progressing nicely. Give him until SummerSlam, maybe even 2026, and he can win the Rumble then. I wouldn't rush it, in my opinion. So, no, I don't see Braun and Gunther happening at Mania. I wouldn't complain about it, but I don't think it happens that soon. AEW is reportedly planning to run a stadium show in Texas next year, possibly where the Rangers play, which holds 40 to 43,000. Given the drop in ticket sales for the Arthur Ashe show, isn't this way overestimating the interest level in their product? Yeah, it would. I mean, that's still a ways off from like 90,000 of what Wembley Stadium holds and what they did last year. 40 is more reasonable. It really is more a matter of where the product is a year from now. I mean, even Wembley doing a lot less people this year, it's still like a different market. They're not there often. They're in Texas a lot. Or no, I don't think they've done Texas at pay-per-view, but they've done a lot of Dynamites there. And it's not like they're pulling in 10,000 people for these Dynamites. So, I mean, obviously people will travel from all over for a show like that. But can they realistically, if they can't even fit fucking 5,000 people into a Dynamite in Texas, what makes people think that they could fit 43,000 or even 40,000 in that building for a pay-per-view? Yeah, it's a pay-per-view and not a Dynamite, but it's got to be like a blow-away card. The product's got to be hotter. I mean, I think it's admirable that they're running bigger stadiums, but a lot of these arenas just look half fucking empty. That's the problem. They got to start small and work their way back up. They peaked a couple years ago. They even peaked probably even a year ago with All In 2023. And now a year later, I don't know what the attendance looks like, but it's not nearly as high. It might be even half of what it was a year ago. Probably more than that. But, for like you said, for the Arthur Ashe show, that attendance has been down year after year since 2021. Year over year, that attendance is shit for the Arthur Ashe shows. It's like barely even 10,000 now. If it is 10,000, they just barely made 10,000 a year ago. So we'll see. I don't know what the tickets look like as of now. I mean, obviously it's got to get closer. They got to do media. They got to build up the card, blah, blah, blah. But a Texas show, 40 to 43,000, I am very skeptical. I hope they can do it. I would love to be wrong. I just don't see it being all that realistic. Your last question, non-wrestling related, but have you seen the first Beetlejuice movie? If so, do you plan to check out the sequel? Also, update on my 184 movies for 2024. Holy shit, John. You're a menace. Actually, no. My family loved that movie. The first Beetlejuice movie. I have actually never seen it. If I have, I don't remember it. I probably watched it when I was a kid. I don't think I did. I have no recollection of that movie at all. So no. I mean, the thing is, I would watch it like, if Alexis was like, oh man, I'm a big Beetlejuice fan, we got to watch the first movie and go see the second one, then yeah, maybe I would. I still might see the first one and then watch the second one. I really don't care about Beetlejuice. I haven't seen it. So maybe if I watch the first one, which I'm sure I wouldn't love it just because it's just a different time. Maybe. I have not seen it, the first one. I don't plan on watching it. But there is a possibility. There's other movies coming out I would rather see instead of Beetlejuice. But there's a chance I could go and see the first one and watch the first one before I see the second one. I feel like there's a pretty good chance I'll probably end up seeing it, but I'm not overly anticipating it, if that makes sense. At Ewagoon91 from Twitter, their first question was, do you see Ilya Dragunov challenging Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship at Bash in Berlin? So the original question was, I think a couple weeks ago, could we see Gunther and Dragunov on that show? And I said, yeah, that'd be cool. But the thing is, Dragunov has done nothing to earn it. Unless he came out of that post-SummerSlam show winning a number one contenders match to heat him up instantly, then sure. But they got a couple Raws left. I think, 2 Raws left to build up Dragunov and Breaker. They do have history from earlier in the summer and from NXT, but even this year, they built it up with matches on Raw. Breaker won all of those matches, and if he didn't, it was because he lost by DQ. I don't see Dragunov. We haven't seen him in a couple of weeks. He would have to come back randomly and earn a number one contender shot. What, just because he's from the area? I mean, I wouldn't be complaining, but Breaker would win again. Dragunov needs wins. I want Dragunov on that show, but it's not looking likely right now, unfortunately. They could turn around and put Breaker and Dragunov on that show, and I wouldn't complain, but it would be an easy win for Breaker. Yes, it does get Dragunov on the card, but they would have to make sense as to why Dragunov is getting the shot. Because the last match they had, Breaker won decisively. I don't think he pinned him. I think he won by referee stoppage. But it was a number one contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship, and Breaker won. It wasn't as if it was a no contest. Breaker won, so they would really have to explain why that match is happening. Their next question, your thoughts on Tony D'Angelo and his family. I like Tony D'Angelo a lot. I saw that D'Angelo lost the Heritage Cup Championship last night. I don't give a shit about that championship. I don't give a fuck about the reign that he had with that title as champion. I just don't care about that belt at all. I'm curious to see where he goes next. They did tease an Obafemi match. Maybe he came out and attacked Obafemi. I only watched half of NXT. I haven't watched the rest of that North American Championship match yet, so maybe they did something there. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that would be fine. I feel like it's time for him to move on, though. I mean, as of next month or as of October, he'll be in NXT for 3 years. And not everyone's going to be there for a year. Not everyone's going to be there for 2 years, 5 years. It differs for everyone. And also, if there's not a space for him on the main roster, they got to keep him where he is. But, what the fuck more can you even do with the guy? He's challenged for all the championships. He's held the tag titles. He's held now the Heritage Cup Championship. He challenged for the NXT Championship back at Stand and Deliver and lost. He's faced a lot of the roster. He has challenged for the North American Championship a lot and lost. He can go back for that belt, but I don't think he wins it. So we'll see. I don't know what they have planned for D'Angelo. I like D'Angelo and the family. I think it's a good faction. I just don't know where they go from here. It kind of feels like they've been spinning their wheels for a while now. Your next question, was it no surprise that Ivy Nile was going to join American Made considering her friendship with the Creed brothers? P.S. This past Friday was my birthday. Well, happy belated birthday at Ewagu91. Hope you had a great birthday and a great birthday weekend. I love when the birthday falls on a Friday because you really have the whole weekend, which is cool. But happy birthday. So, yeah. I was a little surprised because I thought if she was going to join them, she would have joined them from the get-go. But I think saving it for the way that they did it made more sense because she could turn on Max and Dupree herself and get her own little spotlight there. So I liked it. I'm glad she's sticking with American Made because if he didn't join the group, she would be fucking dead in the water probably on Raw. So turning her heel and having her join that group was the best possible move they could have made with her. At Thomas B_B96, he asked, where do you see AEW 5 years from now? Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I'm sure someone had asked me 5 years ago, where do you see AEW 5 years from now? And that would be in 2024. We could have never guessed Punk coming in, Punk leaving, everything that has happened with the company since then. I think AEW will still be around. I don't think it's going anywhere. Honestly, I see it as a company that will continue to exist as an alternative, but maybe not reach the same heights it was at a couple years ago. I feel like the bloom's off the rose. I don't know if they can recapture that magic. I feel like it's going to be very, very difficult. Regardless of what they do and who they bring in at this point, they kind of peaked with Punk and the roster they had in late 2021, early 2022 when Cody was there as well. It's just not the same anymore. It will still be around, still doing well, but doing as well as it is right now even, I don't know. I would love to be wrong and love to see the company grow, but it's been very difficult for pro wrestling companies to grow in the last 20 years. TNA, even after a certain point, peaked and never really reached that same height again. Ring of Honor, all the companies. I feel like AEW's best days, I don't want to be negative and say their best days are behind them because I don't think they're going to close. But I feel like the hottest period they've ever had was 2-3 years ago. I don't know if they can ever get back to that point. But if they can at least continue to be around, that's still a positive for the pro wrestling industry, in my opinion. At noob_n_code TV, what are your thoughts on this version of the Judgment Day with Liv Morgan? It's good, but Carlito feels out of place in this version. But I hope that this Judgment Day will be better. It will not be better. This Judgment Day will not be better than the original core four that were Dom, Balor, Priest, and Rhea. That to me was like the best version of Judgment Day. I like the original Judgment Day with Edge, Rhea, and Damian. But those core four accomplished far more than anyone ever could have thought. I mean, Damian just was World Heavyweight Champion, but he was also Mr. Money in the Bank for a while. Dominic was NXT North American Champion for a little while there last year. Finn and Damian were the Tag Team Champions for a long period of time. Rhea Ripley was the Women's World Champion for a year-long reign. They didn't really hold a lot of gold in that first year in 2022, but 2023 it was off to the races. So, I mean, adding in JD McDonough was fine. With Carlito's like a throwaway member. I think Carlito is great in this role, but he's not like making the group better, you know? Liv is a good replacement for Rhea, but the group doesn't have the same aura that they did even 6 months ago. So, I mean, I don't love the new group. I hope they keep the name. I saw the, I saw the rumor that they might change the name to like Street Trash, which would be fucking terrible, so I hope not. But, if they want to call it something different, rebranded, I guess. I just don't want them to change the name because I like the name, and also I like the theme song. I think the theme song is great. So if they change the group, they would have to change the song, which I wouldn't want to see. But the current Judgment Day is it's good. I think it's fine. I think it works as a heel group. I don't think it's for the long run, though. I think this version of Judgment Day will probably break up and go their separate ways around Mania. If the Priest Balor thing goes till Mania, then they might have to wait a while. But after Mania, I feel like Judgment Day will be quietly disbanded and everyone will go their separate ways, maybe get drafted or whatever, we'll see. At Bill Meister 88, his first question was, if you could have 3 people, dead or alive, as dinner guests, who would they be and why? Also, what would you cook for them? Interesting question. I would probably go, and I thought about this when you sent it in, I would probably go with William Regal, either William Regal or CM Punk, but probably William Regal, Christopher Lloyd, and my grandfather. Now, he has since passed, so that's why I would have him there. And I feel like they would just have a great conversation. William Regal talks a lot, so I feel like the dinner would never end. My grandfather would talk a lot. I feel like he would have a lot to say. And Christopher Lloyd's a fucking icon, so I just feel like they would all balance each other out really, really well. I guess you could say, like, fucking anyone, honestly. Like, you could say anyone, like Abe Lincoln or some shit, but I don't know. What am I going to ask him about for more than 10 minutes? So I would like to have Christopher Lloyd in there, William Regal, and my grandfather, like I said. As far as what I would cook for them, I ain't cooking shit. I'm buying pizza, gonna get a nice big pizza, or, I would go out to eat somewhere. I'm a big, fast food chain guy. I'm one of those people. I know it's probably not my greatest feature, but I like to go, I like to go out to eat at chain places, and local mom and pop shops are fine too, but pizza is a guilty pleasure. Love pizza. Probably pizza. I feel like you can't go wrong with pizza. And I could always get a chicken parm sandwich, which is my favorite food of all time. So they could get pizza. I can eat a chicken parm. My grandfather's Italian. He would probably appreciate that. Anywhere else? I don't know. I like a good fucking, what's it called? Not Denny's. I've been to Denny's. Denny's is fine. Red Robin I like. I love Olive Garden. When you're there, you're family. So you know what? You can't go wrong with Olive Garden. Either Olive Garden or out for pizza. I feel like either one of those options would be great for those specific people in that specific scenario. Your second question, how does WWE handle the acknowledge me part of Roman Reigns' gimmick now that he's a babyface? Do you think it'll work as well as when he was a heel? No, I don't even know if he's going to say it. You know, he would come out with every fucking promo as a heel saying, acknowledge me. He probably won't do it as much. I feel like he would still say it, but people will still eat it up. They don't give a shit. I mean, people were willing to cheer it anyway, but now they're like allowed to cheer because he's a babyface now. So I don't really think it's going to change too much. He probably will say it a lot less because him just going out there saying, acknowledge me, isn't exactly a babyface thing to do. But he also shouldn't drastically change his character to be what he was when he was the big dog. Like, if they start calling him the big dog again, like, fuck no. Like, just call him the tribal chief, the head of the table, the OTC, whatever the fuck you want to say. He doesn't have to go back to being what he was 5 years ago. I saw him with the hair down on SmackDown. He looked like big dog Roman Reigns from his Shield or, like, singles run 5 years ago. 5+ years ago. They want to go back to that, that's fine. He doesn't always have to have his hair in a ponytail, obviously, for non-matches. But if he's going to be out there saying, believe in Roman Reigns or whatever, believe that. Like that fucking shit, like fuck no. Stick with acknowledge me, but just say it less, if at all. And I think it's going to work regardless because Roman Reigns is so over. Maybe they boo it in 5 years, but for now I don't see it being a problem. Especially as long as he's feuding with Solo and he kind of has to acknowledge me as the tribal chief and not Solo. Like as long as that storyline's going on, it probably won't change. And last question, with Survivor Series not too far away, how would you book the men's 5-on-5 match this year? Assuming it's the Bloodline versus New Bloodline, who is on Team Roman and who's the fifth member of Team Solo? Or do you think it'll end up being 4 versus 4 with Jay, Jimmy, and Sammy on Team Roman? That's what I would do. I don't know if you can get the full band back together by then, but I feel like 4-on-4 would make the most sense. Do not do 5-on-5 just because. Like I said, NXT would do 4-on-4. They did 3-on-3-on-3. I don't know if they ever did 5-on-5. It doesn't have to be 5-on-5. I just feel like that's forcing it. So I would do 4-on-4 with the current bloodline led by Solo, Jacob, and the Tongans, and then Roman, the Usos, and Sammy. That's what I would do. I know Hikuleo they just signed. Where do you fit him into this whole thing? If he's the fifth member on Team Solo, who's on Team Roman? Maybe Cody? Seth would be cool. Because, but again, is he feuding with Punk at that point? I don't know. If it has to be 5-on-5, the fifth member of Team Solo should be Hikuleo. On Team Roman, I don't know. Rollins and Cody would have to put his differences aside with everyone in there, but he likes Sammy, he likes Jay, so maybe he would do it for them. It's possible. Cody, I feel like, would probably make the most sense. You could also do, like I said earlier, I don't love this idea because I do want to see the match we just proposed, but like I said, you could do Roman teaming with Rhodes, Orton, and Owens. I don't know why any of the baby faces would want to, face or team with Roman after everything he did to them. He would have to spend the next 3 or 4 months trying to get on their good side and befriend them and apologize. Like, that could be the next 3 months of storylines if they don't want to do the Bloodline reunion just yet with Roman, Jay, Jimmy, and Paul, and even Sammy, perhaps. That's fine, but I do prefer the Roman-led Bloodline with the Usos and Sammy and Paul, and then the new Bloodline. I feel like that just makes the most sense. So thank you guys for sending in your questions for today's episode. This was another fun one. I appreciate it. Not exactly an hour and a half as the last couple of episodes have been. Last week was one of the shorter ones, and the week before that too, just because I had to leave. Not in a rush today, but just be, spend a little less time on the questions, and that's fine too. I think your questions are great, and we got less questions, so it kind of worked out well. I don't like to sit here for an hour rambling to you guys, just because I feel like I might be rambling on for too long about each question, but I appreciate you guys regardless. Thank you, as always, for sending in the questions. You can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Quick update on the audio issue. I know a lot of my videos in the past 2 weeks have been dealing with this. It fucking sucks. I don't think it's going to be solved until I get a new XLR cord because I use a Blue Yeti mic. And for whatever reason, it does not work on my new computer. My old computer, it worked. On another alternate computer, it works that I have. My new computer doesn't work, at least not consistently. So I'm not going to record on my computer for now. I actually am recording it on a separate device, but it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's inconvenient, and I can't do this long term, I don't think. But at some point, I'm going to have to get a new cord or at least a new mic and see if it works. I guess my mic of 10 years is not compatible with this laptop for whatever reason. It fucking sucks, but got to get a new mic soon or a new cord at least to try that out, see where it works. But for right now, anyway, if we're going to continue this setup with what I'm doing, recording on a separate laptop and bringing the audio over, it's annoying, it's inconvenient, but it is what it is. It saves me from having to worry about the audio quality of these episodes being trash and then having to re-record and all that other nonsense. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me regardless. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.